Yeah, what's up, people? Wagwan. All right, so I want to talk about a movie that I saw a few days ago called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. So, yeah, pretty long title. It's a Netflix movie starring Zac Efron telling the story of serial killer Ted Bundy. And I'm going to get into a few spoilers. Nothing too major, but just a few spoilers here and there. But I think let's be real. You probably know what's going to happen. If you've heard of Ted Bundy, the serial killer, then you know what's going to happen. But even still, I would say that it's a film worth watching. I liked what they did with it. I thought they told the story in a really interesting way. It was done. It's not a documentary, but it done almost like a documentary style, almost. It was mostly set in a court. But what I liked about the way they did it is that, one, they didn't glorify Ted Bundy, they didn't glorify serial killing or that whole thing, but they did it in a way that at least seems, to me at least, to be a very honest way of, telling what happened. In that he was this good-looking, charming gentleman that a lot of women found attractive, and that's what he used to lure these young ladies and tricking them into helping him, and then killing them. So it didn't sugarcoat that, and because I think a lot of times, even now, like even to this day, a lot of times when we think of the bad guy, we think of somebody who maybe isn't so good looking, maybe somebody isn't, that sort of charming sort of thing. We have an understanding that those people could be bad too, but I don't think a lot of us really think of that when we think of the bad guy. If I just say there was a bad guy, we're not thinking of the handsome guy in a suit. We're not really thinking that. We understand he could be, but we're not really thinking that. And I think what this film does is that it really highlights that fact that sometimes, maybe even a lot of the times, the real bad guy could be the one that smiles at you, handsome, good looking, charming, all that sort of stuff. And that's the person that's going to hurt you the most. That's not to say that, and just as me talking now, not to say that we should, just be scared of everybody, ugly people and good-looking people, but certainly, be mindful of certain facts that we have in this world. That it's not always going to be the one that you think that looks shifty. It's not always going to be the guy that looks a bit strange. Sometimes it's going to be the one that looks, just perfectly normal, ordinary, smiley, happy, that whole thing. But yeah, it was an interesting film. I knew about Ted Bundy before watching the movie. I knew, about him, what he'd done. I probably didn't know the extent to what he'd done. But yeah, so that was kind of like, damn, just seeing that film. But another thing that I liked about the film as well is, I say, it doesn't glorify what he did, but it does give you enough to kind of doubt as well, without but while still being clear that he's the bad guy. Let me say that, because it's very clear that he's the bad guy, that what he's done is that it doesn't mince words on that. But as you're watching the film, it gives you enough to maybe think, okay, did he do this, or could he have been a mistake for somebody else? Because there was a lot of circumstantial evidence, according to this. There was a lot of evidence that maybe didn't quite really pinpoint him, and he only really got caught mainly because of James Hetfield from Metallica. James Hetfield's in the movie. He plays a cop that pulls him over because of, was it speeding or something like that? I think it was speeding, I can't remember. But he pulls him over something, not, I guess speeding is not really a minor thing, but it's not, he didn't suspect him of being a murderer. It was just a traffic, let's call it a driving offence. Pulled him over because of a driving offence, and then his description happened to match somebody who people have been looking for, and that's kind of how it all kind of kicks off. So but as the story unfolds, it's like it only really generally matched, and then you know, the cops maybe didn't handle it in the best way when it pulled him over, in terms of when it picked him out the lineup. So there was a lot of things in it that was like, okay, did they make a mistake? Is there more to this? And I like that sort of thing. As a movie, it makes it more interesting to watch, because on one hand it's like, you know what happened. On the other hand, it's like, do I know what happened? But yeah, no, it was done really well. I think they handled it really well. It's a very sensitive subject matter, you know. I mean, this was back in the 70s. Yeah, 70s. I think 60s, or late 60s, 70s, I think. Or mostly 70s, I think. So, you know, I imagine there's not... I imagine there are people who were around at that time. In fact, there are people who are around at that time that are, you know, still alive now. So I personally felt it was handled in a sensitive way. Of course, I wasn't around at that time, so I'm not really one to be talking. maybe I should let people who were around at the time, who were directly affected, maybe answer that. But it seemed to me that it was handled in quite a sensitive way, quite a respectful way, by still making an interesting film, by giving you the facts, or at least seemingly. Of course, I wasn't there, but it seems like they're giving you the facts, being truthful to what happened without sugarcoating it, but at the same time being very clear that, yeah, he did some pretty horrible things. So yeah, it's worth watching. Even if you know the story of Ted Bundy, I think it's worth watching. It's on the American Netflix, so you either need to be in America or have a VPN. But yeah, I don't know, maybe available in other Netflix countries at some point. But yeah, in my opinion, it's a good film, interesting film, and yeah, check it out. Extremely wicked, shockingly evil and vile. It's got John Malkovich in it as well, who plays the judge, and I liked him as a judge, actually. He did a pretty damn good job, you know. And if what the judge said about him is a true thing, as what the real judge said to him, then I get it. That's all I'm going to say for that bit. I get it. But anyway, let me know if you've seen it. If you have, let me know what you think of it. If you watch it, let me know what you think. But that's going to be all for now. So if you like this video, give it a like and share it amongst your friends. If you did not like it, give it a dislike and share it amongst your enemies. You can check out more videos, follow me around the web, all links in the description. But that is all for now, so thank you for watching, and until whenever, if ever, be careful out there.